everybody, welcome to the third episode of Know Your Faculty video series here in the School of Civil and Environmental Engineering at Oklahoma State University. My name is Deb Mishra and I am a faculty here in the department, and I also currently serve as the graduate program coordinator. So this is episode 3 of this series, and today I'm very happy to have one of my good friends in the department, Dr. Jorge Gonzalez Estrella. He's an assistant professor here and he focuses in environmental engineering. So let's go and talk to him and find out about his hobbies, his academic journey, and what advice he has for our current and future students. Welcome back. So now I have Dr. Jorge Gonzalez Estrella, and let's go and talk to him. Jorge, thank you very much for coming and agreeing to be on this video series. And the objective is to ask faculty some questions about their background, their research, their teaching, their philosophy of advising students and stuff. And the objective is to help our current and future students know what unique things are going on at OSU and attract more and more students to our program. So this what I do is I usually have 4 little segments. Each segment will have 2-3 questions, and we'll start with just some general background questions. So for the first one, why don't you please tell us a little about yourself, where you're from, where you got your undergraduate and graduate degrees, what do you do in your free time, when did you join OSU, and stuff like that.
Okay. Should I go ahead and...
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
so well, I was born in Mexico City, like very big town. However, my parents are from smaller cities, right? So I always develop in this kind of a disjunctive between the country and the big city, right? And I find myself always enjoying a little bit more the countryside and smaller cities compared to, the big metropole. I did my undergrad outside of Mexico City, and that's precisely because my parents moved out of Mexico City when I was 17. So one of the heartbreaks right there for me was that I didn't get to graduate with all my high school friends, so I had to make new friends in the last year of my high school. So then, I didn't have enough time to plug in the city, in the new city, right? And then I moved out from that small town, or like a smaller city, it's not a town, to the city of Jalapa to start which is in the east side of Mexico, right in the Gulf of Mexico. So I studied environmental engineering in the Department of Chemical Engineering.
Okay.
I started in 2001, I finished in 2006. Usually degrees in engineering in Mexico are 5 years.
Yeah, I heard that, yeah.
So anyhow, then I moved, you say grad school, right? So then after finishing my undergrad, I decided to start a master's degree in environmental engineering in a research institute. So in Mexico, there's a chance that you can do your degree, like let's say that you have Los Alamos or Oak Ridge, so then you actually can get your graduate degree from a national lab.
Oh, that's
or like,
amazing.
Analogous to that. So then I did my master's degree in a research institute.
Where do you take courses?
You take courses for the first year, just right here, in the master's, right? But then it's much more heavy on research.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, so I was very oriented in research, and I like it so much that I told my advisor that I wanted to pursue a PhD, but following the path of what he did, which was going abroad to study his a PhD. So he connected me with the same people, the same folks that he did his PhD. His advisors at that time were in Wageningen. It's a very well-established agricultural university in the Netherlands.
Okay.
So, but by that time, the advisors have already moved to the United States. So more than applying to a grad school program, I applied to a research group. Right?
Okay.
So
that's in Arizona.
It's in Arizona, University of Arizona. So I wanted to join the Field Sierra Research Group. I did my PhD on University of Arizona.
That's the one in Tucson, or
that's the one in Tucson.
Tucson, yeah.
Okay.
And Okay, and that was your PhD, and then you did a postdoc or research assistant.
I did two postdocs. I did a postdoc in Saracor School of Mines, and even though it sounds like, for me in the beginning I was a little bit worried because I was coming from a very, very well-established environmental engineering program to a smaller school. But I think the opportunity was there to, develop some partnerships with industry and so on. So I was still, learning some techniques. So I really wanted to learn about more reactor design, more from bench scale to pilot scale to full scale type of approach. So I was very lucky because Saracor School of Mines is pretty teaching heavy.
Okay.
So in the beginning was a little bit overwhelming because I remember the first week that I was there, it's like, okay, well, this is the research project, go for it, because I don't have, like the advisors were like, well, we're going to be involved, but we are also very heavy on teaching.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a little bit challenging in the beginning, but it was very good for me because, well, that's the same sensation that you have when you have come from, grad school to directly being a professor. However, I think it gave me a buffer to really just become very familiar with research. So I did a postdoc right there, then I did another postdoc in University of New Mexico. And that was already, that was very short because what happened is that I already had 2 years of postdoc on my pocket, CV, right?
Yeah.
And then, so my mentor at that time, Jose Serrato, which has helped me, he continues helping me a lot, said, I don't think it's wise to have you just as a postdoc here. You already have the qualification. Uh-huh. Why you don't, perform? Let's see what happens. Try to get some publications, and then we'll try to negotiate your research professor position. So then I became a research professor.
Research assistant.
And that for me was like such fun time.
Yeah. So Mexico to Arizona to South Dakota. That must be some weather change.
To New Mexico. Yeah, to New Mexico.
To Mexico. Okay, you've basically gone up and down, literally, right? Mm. Okay, and when did you join OSU?
I joined OSU in 2020, right in the midst of the
COVID, right?
Yeah, pandemic. Yeah.
Okay, great, excellent. So now, why don't you tell our students what courses you currently teach, both at the undergrad as well as the graduate level and stuff?
Well, for undergrad, I've been focusing on unit operations for environmental engineering.
Okay.
Which basically in that course we teach how to design processes to clean water so we can drink it, or to clean wastewater that we can, safely dispose in the environment. Okay. So that's basically what we cover in that course. And the other course that I'm teaching right now, it's bioremediation of inorganic contaminants. It's an advanced course. Right there we cover contaminants that are source of agricultural activities, that are a source of mining activities that can affect soil or the aquatic environment. Mm-hmm. So we learn about those things from the very chemical point of view to the engineering point of view. Uh-huh.
Okay. And the unit ops is a core course, right? So
it's a core course.
Everybody takes that. Okay.
They have no option.
Well, I'm glad they get exposed to your work and your teaching. So I know that you work in the generic area of environmental engineering, but take us a little deeper. What do you do in there? Not a lot of technical details, but like elevator pitch on what you do with your research.
So what we do is I focus a lot in environmental chemistry. Okay. So what we do is we try to understand what are the effects of emerging contaminants. Or an emerging contaminant, for example, can be microplastic, or could be also a persistent contaminant, could be like heavy metals. So what happens with them in the environment? In other words, are they affecting microorganisms that are very important for like cleaning water in wastewater systems, or uptaking carbon in soils, or affecting carbon cycles? But also what happens with them, how do they move through the environment, what are the things that affect that movement or transport of them? What else? And then we collaborate a lot with environmental toxicologists since we work a lot in what happens in the environment, we want to understand what happens also to some organisms.
So you're saying environment. So is your focus more on the water side or air side or soil side or all three of them?
Soil, water. I don't do too much air.
You don't do, and mostly quality. So water quality and soil contamination and stuff like that.
I wouldn't say quality. I would say it's more about because quality is just about monitoring the parameters.
Oh, okay.
Whereas we focus much more about how can we understand what happens with some contaminants on the soil, on in water, and how can we either remove them from there or understand their effects.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, okay. So the last question on this segment is my favorite. And why don't you tell us a little bit something funny about yourself or something unique about yourself or a unique experience you have had, anything?
Yeah, of course. So when I was in undergrad, I was very active as environmental, young, enthusiast. And with some friends, we started an NGO.
Okay.
And we got like quite well established. And that then we start to get in some connections with the United Nations Environmental Program of Latin America in Mexico.
Okay.
So then we became our little cell or bubble of environmental, the environmental youth program in where I was in Veracruz, right? That's where I studied my undergrad. So then, in collaboration with a bunch of people, we did a regional manual or regional outlook on how the youth would see or how the youth sees the environment and the problems that affect the environment in Mexico. So it was pretty fun. So our performance was decent, and we were getting some attention from the regional office. So I got the invitation from the program manager at that point of the youth section to go to the United Nations program in Kenya. So that was pretty fun.
You went?
Yeah,
wow.
to the environment. So that was very fun with talking with the UN.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, it was like night and day for me, because I said I don't want to be a politician. I want to be a scientist, right? I was just a little bit disappointed with so many layers that you gotta go through to.
How old were you?
I was 21.
Oh wow,
I was 21.
That's amazing. That's unique for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So the next block or the next segment is about your career path. So I'm going to ask you some questions so that our students can find out. So let's start with, so you are, what I understood, you got your undergrad in chemical engineering, but with environmental focus or stuff, or maybe they give an environmental degree.
So you get an environmental degree in the
department.
In the chemical engineering.
Okay, but my question is, why did you decide to go into that focus, and when did you make that decision?
Okay, that's a good inside question. I always enjoyed the environment since I was a kid. I remember the first questions was where do you grow up, right? But I always felt connected so much to the outdoors, to the country, and I really enjoyed my summers with my grandparents, with a lot of space. So I knew that was something on me, like a call for the environment. So when I was talking with my mentors in high school, that were like, I don't know if they know that the impact they had on me, right? I said I really enjoy designing. I think I'm good at chemistry. I really, I never struggled, in math. So I was like very, very stereotypical engineer, right? But I did not want to be something that was not related to the environment. So at that point, one of my mentors said, well, why you don't try environmental engineering?
Oh, that's nice.
And I said, oh yeah, I'll give it a shot. So I started to read about it and the programs that they had environmental engineering in Mexico. And very funny, my dad said, I said, okay, one of the best programs is in Mexico City. And he's like, no, why you are going to go back to Mexico City? We just moved
away
out from there.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And I was like, okay. Well, the funny thing is my sister came back and he had to Mexico City. And I was like, but I was like, yeah, you're right, but I'm going to pick somewhere in which I really can explore and do environmental stuff. So that's what I went to Veracruz. And I think that was the best decision that I made for my undergrad. It was not the strongest program, but it was the best place I could ever decided to be.
Hey, it made an amazing researcher, so we are very happy for that. One thing, I'll digress a little. In the recording this 2.5 episodes, what I have started to realize is this is a way for us as faculty to even say thank you to our mentors and people who made our career. Like last episode, Jamie was the guest and she actually said how important an impact Dr. Mike Perez, her advisor, had on her and her career. And now you're talking about your high school advisors and stuff. And I hope we can send this video to them to tell them that, hey, wherever they are, they're changing lives.
The funny thing is, it was such a small conversation. And it was with this guy that teach biology. And I knew that I don't want to be a biologist, not because I appreciate biology a lot, but I really enjoy design and I really want to do some design stuff. So that's what the engineering field.
That's pretty cool. So I guess the next question is you've almost answered with your interest in research. I guess is that what drove you to do a PhD, just because you liked research and stuff like that?
Yeah, one of the first things that I did is when I finished my undergrad, I started working in an environmental engineering firm that was installing pre-packed wastewater treatment plants.
Okay.
And I noticed, even though that I did my best to learn as much as possible in my engineering courses in undergrad, that the level that I needed to understand the depth of the mechanisms in which these plants were working was not there. So I said, I need a master's degree. But the funny thing is, I didn't know that I wanted to do research. I just wanted to do something for the environment at that point. And I said, but I need to know more. And that's what I joined the master's program. Once I was in the master's program, I was like, no, I want to know more. I want to do. That's
a PhD. Yeah. That's pretty cool. Okay. So after PhD, you said you went to postdoc, first to South Dakota and stuff. Did you ever consider like industrial positions or something, or was academia and postdoc?
Well, I mean, I was, the market is tough in environment in academia, right? So industry was always an option for me. So I was considering all options, though I would think like I was so focused on being a professor that I don't know if I would be fulfilled in industry, right? So I was I was giving it a shot. I got a couple of interviews, but the postdoc offer came first, and I was like, I think I'm gonna go for a postdoc.
That's good. Okay. Yeah. All right. So our next segment is called Advice to Students.
Mm-hmm.
So it's basically I want to know a little bit about your research group, your mentorship philosophy, and what advice you give. So my first question is, and this is something I like to do. You joined in 2020. Ever since I've followed your work, although I'm not an environmental engineer, I'm very familiar with the stuff you're doing and whatnot. And one thing I have noticed is that you have mentored and graduated some pretty amazing graduate students. Like I've followed what they have done. They've done some very high quality work. So tell us a little bit about what qualities you look for in a student while hiring, and what is your mentorship philosophy? How do you mentor them for success and cutting edge research and stuff?
Yeah, I think, the first thing that I said to my students when they joined the group, I have like basically not a contract, but a form in which I said what are my expectations and what they can expect from me.
Okay.
Right. So I always say that for me the most important thing is to have a friendly environment, a constructive environment, that they have the resources to do their research, but that my ultimate goal is they can look back and say, well, I enjoy my time working for my research group, right, or in my research group. I think that's for me the ultimate goal. I think if people are happy, they feel belong somewhere, and then they're in a community, then productivity is just a byproduct. Now that initiative of the interest, for having that interest to be in the school, I am very clear that cannot come from me, right? The interest comes from you.
From them, yeah.
And I can only provide the path and the tools, but you have to be convinced, right? So then I do expect for my students to have initiative and to be as independent as they can, okay? I can see that in grad school there's a lot of times that we have a lot of questions, and I will be more than happy to answer those questions or provide some guidance to follow that path. But I think for me the questions have to come from that part for me, from their part, for me to generate more questions, so then we can go back and forth, okay? Especially in the PhD stage. In the masters we still have to have a lot of structure because it's also the time is short. So in other words, what type of personality for me works best in my group is a person that really is interested and has like that drive to do that. As they laugh because I said I already did my PhD. I won't do this. I won't do it for you, again, right? So then I won't do it again. So I was in 2 talks, in 3 talks that they say exactly the same thing about what are the qualities that you need for your PhD, and I agree with almost all of them. Well, with all of them, and I added a new one. Now I'll hold that idea for a second. Then I read this book. I forget the author right now. I just checked it before this interview. The book name is Grit.
Okay.
And it's about the psychology about being perseverant, having passion, and having community. Grit. And for me, it's one of the best tools that you can have in grad school, right? Because it's sometimes times are like challenging, right? Like there's gonna be times that experiments do not work, and there's no like an easy path for solving some stuff. But then what gets you there, what brings you to success, is that great. So anyhow, I tell them that I think they need to look for 5 things, and I call them the 5 Ps.
Okay.
And some people have 4, and some people have 3, right?
Okay.
So then the first one is for me is patience.
Okay.
Then the other one is perseverance. The other one is passion. The 4th one is people.
Yeah.
And the 5th one is party. And party, I don't ask him to go out and every night then get crazy. What I'm saying is celebrate
your success.
Celebrate success. Yeah. So for me, those are the 5 P's of success for
that's amazing. I'm gonna. I love it. Okay, this is really good. So great. Yeah, I mean that's some of these books. They leave a long impact on us. So, okay, next one is a little different from the questions I have been asking on this interview series. So this is a little bit more towards PhD students. As you know, that PhD dissertation is it varies significantly, right? For example, when I was a student, and I don't know how yours was, mine was like one story told through 7 chapters, like, different things, experimental details, this aspect of this aspect of this. Recently, over the last few years, I've seen a lot more emphasis on paper-based dissertations, like when there is an introduction chapter or maybe a literature review, and then 1 paper, 2nd paper, 3rd paper, and then the dissertation is done and stuff. So, what is your what approach do you take? Because I sometimes find students asking me questions, at least in my group, saying that which is there one is better than the other, or do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's an excellent question. I go for the second approach, paper-based. And I think for me, what I have seen that is successful is because the students get more motivated at seeing 1 piece of their dissertation already done. It's like, oh, that's right there. I just need 2 more or 3 more, whatever you agreed from the get-go with the students. And for me, that they see 1 piece published gives them a little bit of a taste of momentum. And so then for me, it's easier to see that they see the path. When they have very, very you need more focus, I would say, to wait for at the end. And so then I think for me it could be more overwhelming. So I would say step by step for me has worked the best, and I did it that way. Maybe that's what I'm biased.
Okay. No.
But I think also prepares them also for future interviews when they have already one product.
Yeah. Trophy in hand.
Yeah,
basically.
exactly. So I think the paper approach
is what you are following.
Yeah, is what I follow.
Okay, excellent. This one is regarding OSU. So you said you've been in Mexico, New Mexico later on, and then South Dakota, Arizona, and stuff like that. What do you think OSU stand out in your experience, and what are some qualities that you think we should advertise more to students to attract them here and stuff?
Oh man, it's funny because I got asked exactly the same question when I was interviewing, right? Like, you've been in all these places, why you want to come to OSU? I think for me is I love the fact that we can do so much stuff in this university. Like, we have so much resources to do amazing research, and we don't have to be stressed with a big city environment. Well, for me, that's very important.
Yeah,
For me, it's very important that I can walk home and I feel safe and at home, but that's from my personal point of view. So if you think about it, if you want to do spectroscopy work, which I do a lot, we have a lab in engineering, but also have a microscopy lab that is sponsored by the Vice President of Research, right? We have amazing collaborators throughout the campus. We have equipment there, equipment here. I mean, we cannot complain. So for my research, to do microplastics, we have the equipment here. I found collaborators. So I think this is just such a friendly environment to me. Okay, so for me, OSU has always provided the resources and the space that I need to do good research. And the good thing is for me is that we are I'm not speaking about my research group, I'm speaking for all the research groups, and I guess that I know of in OSU, we compete with the
big ones. Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that's for me. I have a little bit of a enjoyment of having. It's like, oh, you don't have that as much reputation, but it's like, but all of a sudden you come to a national conference, and the data that you're presenting is the same quality as
if not better,
the bigger names. So that's what I really enjoy. So that space, that I think there's also a sense of smaller community here that I like, and the fact that we have grown as university, and the university drives a lot of the life of Stillwater, so makes it very unique. So I don't know. I think you can find probably these resources in other universities in the United States, but I think the space, the quality of life, the summers are a bit too hot, but that's okay. But I love this weather right now, the winter and the spring. So those are those advantages for me.
Summer is not hotter than Arizona, so
it's more humid though, which kills me.
It is humid. Excellent. Thank you. Last question of this segment is, I have been recently asked about several PhD students about the importance of a postdoc if they are wanting to pursue a research career. Let's just call it research career. I mean, mostly in academia, but if they want to even go for a national lab or something. Do you think, like, I know you did a postdoc, you actually did kind of two, you're a research assistant professor later, I did a postdoc and stuff like that. So what do you think, do you think personally it prepared you better?
Definitely, but I think I can just ask this question from my experience, right?
Yes,
absolutely. I wouldn't say that it's necessary for everyone.
Yeah, we're not generalizing.
I would say it's necessary. It was necessary for me, and if your experience is similar to mine, then you might be able to get help from a postdoc. So in my case, I was in a very paper-based mentality, right? So then
culture,
we had we were very successful in a lot of getting publications as PhD students. However, I think that I was not prepared in terms of a proposal, writing, administration of groups, mentoring students, and I really want to be in a R1 university. So I said, I cannot be successful without those skills.
Yeah.
Well, I think then by doing the postdoc, I also learned other techniques that weren't necessarily taught in my PhD
Yeah.
or not part of my PhD.
You get to
So then
widen angle,
exactly.
widen,
So then I try to that's what learned here is complemented what I learned in my first postdoc
yeah.
and in the second postdoc. So then I start to understand tools and how to form my research group by integrating all these things that I have already have experience with. So my experience as a researcher cannot exist without those postdocs.
Yes.
However, some experience as a researcher do not need a postdoc, right? But for what I wanted to do, they were necessary.
Exactly, and we can always talk about that.
Yeah.
All right, so yeah, thanks. So this brings us to the last segment of our interview, and this is a very open-ended question, and you don't necessarily talk to me, you talk to our current graduate students and future graduate students who are considering applying to OSU, hopefully, or anywhere in the world for that matter. And the question is, what advice do you want to give to current and future graduate students that, and you can't repeat the 5 Ps, but, or you may repeat the 5 Ps, but to succeed in their life, the Ps that you said.
I think that's exactly the advice that I was, that I would say, right? Find your 5 Ps. What that means is like, as I said, patience, perseverance, passion.
Passion.
Okay, people
and party.
And party.
Okay.
And I can go with that, like, because you might have the passion, but then if you don't have the patience, then you might just be slamming your laptop in the wall, right? But also, like, there's gonna be tough times, so you need your friends, you need your people.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and also, like, you need, you publish a paper, you gotta celebrate those, because those like little celebrations matter so much.
That is such an important thing. We forget to give ourselves credit for something we just accomplished, right?
And I think that's when I see colleagues that get a grant, I always take the time and celebrate that. I think because
I've experienced that myself. Yes. And it's success, right?
Yeah, exactly. And we gotta enjoy that success.
Excellent. Great. Thank you. So this brings us to the conclusion of our interview, and as you saw, there are 5 Ps, but I also learned about another thing about the book called Grit. I'm definitely going to find that and read that, because that's a very important part. So as we conclude, let's repeat that. I hope my short-term memory is working good. So it's patience, it's perseverance, it's passion, it's people, and it's party. So so I think that's good. So Jorge, thank you very much. Really appreciate you talking to me today.
Thank you for the invitation.
We'll end the interview and go Pokes.
Go Pokes.